So tourism now is the main business in the Caribbean. Our people are dying there in unprecedented numbers because we don't grow our food. So our food has to come from miles away, and it is already doctored to make it look good when it reaches the marketplace. And our people are growing there in cancer, in diabetes, high blood pressure, AIDS, gang violence, drugs. So the Caribbean is suffering. Africa too is not the Africa that we knew in '57 with Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré and Balewa and Nnamdi Azikiwe and all of the great ones. Coup after coup after coup. The education of Africa controlled by Europe, either the French in the Francophone countries, Great Britain in the Anglophone countries. The lack of development to feed our own population. So the Caribbean is rich fertilely, but doesn't feed its people. Africa rich fertilely, not feeding its people. Civil war. AIDS is a pandemic in Africa. And so I don't think we are where we would like to be, but I still have great hope for the future, because that which has oppressed us, that which has sought to destroy us, is now being destroyed. In Europe, according to Pat Buchanan in his book, The Death of the West, the white birth rate is under zero. Zero population growth is one death, one birth. But today in Europe, it's more than one death, one birth. It's more death, less birth. So the white population of Europe is going down. And the immigrant population is multiplying. In America, you have the same phenomena. 35 years ago, Brother Gil, the demographers were saying that by 2050, at the current black birth rate, blacks would be equal to or greater than the whites in this nation by 2050. But somehow the racist element went to work, culling us by birth control, by AIDS, by crack cocaine and drugs, and literally promoting gang conflict, drug war, and now the youth of our people are destroying each other at a tremendous rate.
If one were to ask you to name any place where people of color live and control the economy of where they live, the land, could any such land be named today?
As you asked the question, my mind was searching all of the countries that I have been blessed to visit, and there is not one. What I found in the Caribbean, black people were in the position of political power, while Arabs, Chinese, and Indians, and others were in control of the economics. Well, if you control the economics, you direct the politics. And so the politics of Africa is controlled by the economics. And I don't know whether you've seen this book, The Confessions of an Economic Hitman. But in this book, they talked about how they would go to African countries and offer them aid to tie up their natural resources. When President Abacha of Nigeria was alive, I visited with him. And he told me that the IMF and the World Bank offered him tremendous amounts of money. And he said, thank you, but no thank you. We have enough revenue from oil that we can take care of ourselves. Nigeria was moving toward becoming that independent black nation that would suffice its needs from within. But in this book, The Economic Hitman, whenever you were deprived or you did not accept the loan and the conditions of that loan, then they would send what they called the jackals to try to undermine your government, even assassinate the leadership, or they would send an army. So in the case of Nigeria, it was the assassination of Abacha.
South Africa, who's got wealth beyond the wildest dreams, and yet the South African does not control the wealth of that country.
When I visited South Africa, we had a chartered plane on a world tour. When I got off the plane, Brother Gil, there was a man standing on the tarmac, wrapped in chains. And I looked at him, and we went to the hotel. And when we got to the hotel, the same man was there, in chains. And the message he was telling me was, we're not free, brother. We're still in chains. I applaud Madibo. What a great mind and a great man. He assumed power on the strength of the vote of his people. That power could have been turned into something very ugly to destroy the country. But he patiently waited for a new generation to develop, highly learned, that they could take over sections of the economy that they may not have been prepared for at the time that he won the presidency. Madibo was very wise, but he built hope on the promise of the enemy. They promised him that they would put electricity, that they would help him build 100,000 new homes, and they would help him do this and that. And when I visited there again, Johannesburg was gone. Like it was in Gary, Indiana, when Gary was a great industrial city, but when our brother Mayor Hatcher became the mayor, the whites who controlled the economy moved out of Gary to Merrillville and Sherrville, and they built a community economically fine, but Gary died. And when I last went to South Africa, Johannesburg was dead. And the beautiful hotel, 5-star hotel that I was in was empty. And when I talked to this Madibo's ex-wife, Sister Winnie said, they promised my husband so much.